too many companies right now are still triangular in shape, and they need to switch to circular. That's why millennials are leaving.
Welcome to the Vistage podcast series. I'm Dave Nelson, a Vistage member since 2003, part of CEO Group 676 in Pittsburgh, and your podcast host. Every episode, we connect with an extraordinary business leader to get valuable ideas to apply in our own organizations. Today, I'm joined by Ryan Avery, co-founder of Avery Today and managing partner at How to Be a Speaker LLC, and we'll be talking about motivating millennials. Ryan trains leaders around the world, teaching them how to utilize the power of storytelling to motivate others to sell products, services, and ideas. Hey, Ryan, welcome to the Vistage podcast.
Thanks for having me. I love Vistage.
It's fabulous. Now, at age 25, Ryan became the youngest world champion of public speaking in history, competing against more than 30,000 people from 116 countries to claim the 2012 World Championship title. He is the co-founder of Avery Today and the managing partner, as I said, of How to Be a Speaker. Ryan, boy, there's so many other things to talk about. You're a co-author, and I also read in your bio that you and your wife together are the first couple ever to do paid professional speaking on all 7 continents.
Yeah, we're the youngest couple in history to speak on all 7 continents. We set that record last year. We set a world record. It was fun.
Well, let's get into the millennials, and let's start by putting this generation in context. So, give us a definition. Tell us why they're so important.
Very important because we are now the largest generation out there. There's 80 million of us here in the United States specifically, 2 billion worldwide. We spend more money than any other generation. So we're spending a lot. We have a lot of people in our generation. And in the next 10 years, we're going to make up 75% of the workforce. So knowing how to motivate us to buy from you, knowing how to motivate us at work is a huge opportunity for you to grow your business, for you to have less turnover, for you to keep employees engaged. It's not a thing to focus on, it's the thing to focus on when you're serious about growing your business. And a millennial is anyone from born 1980 to 2000. So anyone in that age range is a millennial.
Also, you've emphasized the size of the generation. Mm-hmm. We have this very large generation called the baby boomers, but they're retiring, right? And then Gen Xers, there's not that many of them, right? So they can't backfill, and that's why we're seeing the workforce and the customer base get younger.
Yeah, and it's a problem too because, like you said, baby boomers are retiring, and you have such good information, right? You've been in the business, you know how to do it. There's so many things that you've learned, and what's happening is these baby boomers are leaving, and they're not transferring that knowledge over to millennials. And millennials need to step up too because we're not necessarily reaching out enough to baby boomers to say, hey, before you leave, what'd you learn here? What advice do you have for me here? And what I've seen in the companies that I work with, a lot of companies don't have actual proper mentorship programs in place for that to go on. You know, there's some loose things here like, oh yeah, I talk to him maybe every other Friday, but I'm talking structured mentorship programs within the company that each baby boomer should have at least 3 millennials that they're mentoring in the company, without a doubt.
Wow. And so you're sort of getting into why you got into this, but I'm curious, how did you decide you were going to enlighten business executives or even maybe recognize that there was a problem?
Okay, how I got into it, really I fell into it, very similar to the World Championship. I don't know if you can tell, but I am a millennial. So for some reason, me looking like a millennial, which I am a millennial, people think I know a lot or thought I knew a lot about millennials. So I started getting all these questions about millennials, and I was getting questions and people were looking to me as this expert because I was a millennial. Well, at that time, several years ago, I didn't know anything about our generation. You know, I was part of it. So I started doing research to answer questions that I was getting in my trainings and my keynotes, because that was coming up a lot. So I had to be prepared for those questions. Well, all of a sudden, I started researching them, and I started looking about us or learning about us and figuring out, oh, wow, we can be a company's strongest marketing ally. And what happens is the problem is companies don't know how to motivate us because they don't understand us. So what I wanted to do is, yeah, I fell into it because people go, oh, well, he's a millennial. He must know about millennials. And at that time, I didn't. Now I do because of the research. And when I did that research, I realized, oh, there is so much out there that companies, that baby boomers, that Gen X, that millennials ourselves can learn about us that will help us improve our business, that will help us make sure that we go and out there to get more followers. So it kind of fell into my lap because I was a millennial.
Okay, yeah, well, that sort of makes sense. And so they assume that you know everything about your generation. It sounds like you've learned a lot about it now.
Yes, yeah.
Let's talk about a real world challenge that one of your clients faced, and how did you
Hmm.
help them solve it? In fact, what's your context even for thinking about the millennials?
Yeah, gosh, there's a lot of problems we've solved. And I think the biggest one that comes up is high turnover for companies, right? So the average millennial is staying less than 2 years with a company. Baby boomers are staying 15 years, right? Or on average, they've stayed 15 years. So high turnover costs a lot of money, takes a lot of time to retrain people. So we've got to fix that, right? And what I've seen is, here's one thing that we've implemented is, baby boomers, they focus on a big win, right? So you had your annual meeting, you had your big bonus in December, you had the gold watch, after 15 years. You wanted the big wins. With millennials, we want the small wins, right? We want the monthly updates, maybe even bi-weekly updates about our review, how we're doing. We want the $25 Starbucks gift cards here and there. We want lunch at the office. We want little wins. We're not waiting around for that big win. One of the best ways to motivate a millennial is pay for our Netflix account. And it sounds crazy, but it's true. It's a little thing that outside of work we like to do, and maybe it's Hulu or Netflix or it's our Xbox subscription or whatever it is, right?
A hundred
Uh,
dollars a year, right?
yeah, something small,
But a
but that,
currency that you care about.
exactly. Yeah. So that, right, that helps us understand my leader, our company cares about me outside of work, and that's something that's important to us because baby boomers, a lot of you worked so then you could have fun. Baby or millennials are looking to work to have fun, right? We want work to be fun. So knowing that little difference is huge because are you having work where people are coming, this is business, this is what happens, and then you go on your vacation or you spend time at home. Well, we're so fluid now. We've got we're, many of us, most of us, the research out there, 95% of millennials are working outside of work because we have our phone, we have our computer. So it's this fluid, no more 9 to 5 work environment anymore. And we have to understand that little wins are a big, big opportunity for you to implement in your company.
I've heard that called the sort of the blended life.
Yeah, you've got to focus on no more 9 to 5. You have to focus on results. So don't tell me what time I need to be in to work and what time I need to leave. Tell me what you want me to accomplish, and I'll do it on my own time. Now, are there some positions that require you to be there, like a bank teller or something like that? Of course, right? And there are certain millennials that will fit that model, right? So it's important to understand the word generation stems from generalization, right? So we're making a generalized statement around a group of people. So there's always going to be the exceptions. For most of us, though, we're focused on the results that you want, not the time frame that you want us to be there.
Interesting. And I can imagine there's a pretty compelling ROI. As you alluded to the sort of average tenure in job, I've read Department of Labor predicts that the average millennial has 10 to 14 different jobs by the time they're 38, right? And
Yeah.
so if I can just have a little bit longer, maybe 4 years instead of 2 years as
Mhm.
my average employee turnover, that's
Yeah.
huge ROI.
Well, what a big misconception that I see within the companies too is we're not necessarily looking for a new job. We're looking for new responsibilities. And what I mean by that is don't let them leave. Let them stay and give them new responsibilities. Give them something else because they'll still know your company values. They'll still know your goals. They'll still know what you're trying to accomplish. We like to try different things, right? You're going out, baby boomers, and you're ordering steak, mashed potatoes, and broccoli as your meal, right? That's what you like to eat. I'm using this as an example. We like to order the trio platter where we've got all the different options, right? And we would get bored with the same meal over and over again, and so we leave restaurants. However, keep the restaurant there, but add different plates to the menu, put different plates in front of us so we're constantly being engaged and we're trying new things. Same with their roles and responsibilities and things to do.
Okay, now I heard you talk about the triangular organization, the circular. What are you talking about?
Good. Okay, so what I want you to do, those who are watching right now, is I want you to draw a triangle and I want you to draw a circle on a piece of paper, okay?
I'm following along here, Ryan. So by the way, I'm a baby boomer myself. So I've got my triangle, my circle here.
Great. Okay, so what happens is, so we look at this, and you baby boomers are triangles, okay? And millennials, we are circles. Now, Dave, do you have any kids?
I have two, and they're both
Yep.
millennials, 22 and
Both
25.
millennials. Okay, Dave, you and baby boomers, y'all know the meaning of hard work, don't you?
Of course.
You know, you worked hard. You worked really hard, right? So, did you have to pay for your own car and pay for your own college and do all that stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so you worked hard, you had to do all that stuff. So then what happens is you had kids, right? And you didn't want them to work that hard.
No, I've bought my sons their first cars and fully funded a debt-free education for both of them.
You did.
Yes,
didn't
I
you?
did. Did I make a mistake,
And-
Ryan?
yeah, so let me hear. When we hear people call us lazy and entitled and all of these things, why we are the way we are, it's because of you, Dave. It's because of you. It's because of our parents, right? And those of you who are listening too, you're the same way. You didn't want us to work so hard because you go, no, my kid isn't going to work that hard. I'm going to make sure they have fun and do all that stuff. And then it's my strongest belief that whatever happens in the family gets translated into the real world, right? So baby boomers, you grow up in a triangular household where you grew up in an empire, right? You had mom and pop at top and then everybody else below. So you had mom and pop at top. They were the decision makers, right? If they said it, you did it. No explanation. It was mom and pop, it was uncles, it was the dogs, and then it was you, right? So it was children at the bottom. Well, what happened is you had us, and you transitioned from triangular to circle, and we sat around the dinner table with you. And we all sat right here and you asked us questions and you got us involved. In fact, many of you asked us for advice. Have you ever asked your kid for technology advice or called them up and said, hey, how do you do this?
Oh, of course.
Absolutely, right? So we've been sitting at the table since day one, okay? We've been feeling like part of the family since day one. So over here, baby boomers wanted to create an empire. Millennials wanted to create a community. Okay, so what's happening is when we go into the workplace, you think of us as entitled and you think of us as lazy or you think of us as wanting to go up the ladder so quickly. No, we want to sit at the table like we always have. We want to sit at the table and be asked questions and we want to be able to make sure that we're contributing as well because that's how we feel valued. And what's happening is too many companies right now are still triangular in shape and they need to switch to circular. That's why millennials are leaving, because you have a triangular company, you don't have a circular company.
Interesting. So I always like to pose a closing question for our viewers or listeners. But in this case, you've already implied the question, which is your company triangular or circular? And you've even given us a sense of how to recognize it. How do I then begin moving from triangular to circular if I recognize that in my company?
Yes, and I want to mention one because I don't want to forget about you Gen Xers. Okay, Gen Xers, you're square. All right, so you have the triangle, square, and the circle. So Gen X is the combination of these two, right? You might feel both. You might feel like, oh, I wanted to create an empire, but I also wanted to create a community. I wanted to be in that middle. Gen X still has the edges, right? So they still wanted to create the empire, but they also wanted to build the community. They're still at the table, but they're very clear on what their roles and responsibilities are. So they're in that middle. So how do you transition from triangular to circle? Several things, and we're going to talk a lot about it at this VES that's coming up. one of the ways, I'll give you one of the ways, is really do look at your way of, are you focused on the big wins at the end? You're doing these yearly reviews, or are you now transitioning into, no, we need to eat monthly? How are we paying for their Hulu account or Netflix account? Or how are we showing them recognition on a regular basis, not at the end? So how are you transitioning from big wins to small wins on a regular basis?
All right. Well, that's great closing advice. And which city, which Vistage Executive Summits are you going to be at?
Oh, I'm going to be at a lot this year. I think the next ones that I have coming up are Rochester is the one that I have coming up.
All right. Well, folks, if you're a Vistage member, you can look for Ryan at your Vistage Executive Summit. Hey, Ryan Avery, it was a delight speaking with you today. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Hey, folks, if you're interested in learning more about Vistage, please check out Vistage.com. It's a great way to take your business to the next level, as you probably got today. Thanks for watching or listening to this episode of the Vistage podcast series. We hope it helps you accelerate your business.